and has reintroduced the Zimbabwe dollar for all local transactions. This announcement came a day after the Minister of Finance and Economic Development had assured the nation that the Zimbabwean dollar will only be reintroduced when macroeconomic fundamentals are in place. Such a critical issue should have been subjected to intense dialogue, and it smacks of hypocrisy and is patronizing for the government of Zimbabwe to unilaterally make such a huge policy pronouncement at a time social partners were supposed to meet on Wednesday, 26 June 2019, under the auspices of the recently enacted tripartite negotiating forum. We would like to note that the government has been taking its people for granted for quite some time now, lying when it introduced the bond notes in 2016 that they were adequately backed by lines of credit from Afreximbank, that the one-to-one exchange rate between the US dollar and RTGS dollar were also backed by adequate lines of credit when they separated Nostro and RTGS foreign accounts FCAs in October 2018. And again, that the interbank foreign exchange market would stabilize after its introduction in February 2019 on the back of unproven external lines of credit. These all proved to be false guarantees, as the local currency could not hold against the USD and other foreign currencies. It is also important to observe that government Zimbabwe dollar during the hyperinflation period 2007 to 2008, and now the multi-currency system through chronic high inflation. Clearly, in both episodes, the working people of Zimbabwe have lost substantial value in their earnings, pensions and insurance products, and are essentially incapacitated to work as they earn in the fast depreciating RTGS dollars. With impunity and no sense of shame, the government is shying away from responsibility for the destruction of the local currency in the first instance, and now the multi-currency system that it inherited in a functional state following the end of the Government of National Unity, GNU, in 2013, and is now pushing the already impoverished workers to earn only in the meaningless RTGS dollar, which can no longer effectively function as a medium of exchange, as a unit of account, store of value, and standard of deferred payment. Following this diabolical announcement, the workers who in some instances were being cushioned by having part of their wages and salaries paid in US dollar have lost that benefit. In typical double standards, the same government exempts Zimra from levying duty in the local currency on the so-called luxury goods that it is shoving down everyone else's throat. The Zctu condemns such flagrant disregard for social dialogue and respect for social partners, and in particular violation of Section 13, subsection 2 of the Constitution, which obligates government to involve the people in the formulation and implementation of development plans and programs that affect them. We are therefore consulting our lawyers, and we may file an urgent court application challenging the constitutionality of the policy pronouncement, and that it also violates the Tripartite Negotiating Forum TNF Act, Section 3A, C, and E. 3A says, the function of the TNF shall be to consult and negotiate on social and economic issues and submit recommendations to the Cabinet. Section 3C says, the function of the forum shall be to foster cooperation of the tripartite constituencies and consult other key stakeholders and contribute to the formulation and implementation of social and economic policies. And finally, Section 3E talks about generating and promoting a shared national socio-economic vision, which is much needed in this country. The Zctu has not moved from its position that the short-term solution is to dollarize. In such, we are going into the TNF tomorrow to demand US dollar salary payments for all workers. We are also attending the TNF to express our displeasure about the unilateral policy pronouncement and the substance of the policy itself. If the government does not reverse this ruinous policy immediately and announce US dollar salary payments, we will immediately mobilize workers for mass action. I thank you.
Thank you, Comrade President, for the speech. Now I invite questions from members of the press. Please identify yourself first.
Farai, so kuna mata kuno.
Do I take the other questions?
Of course, I'm with the news about the school. Let me just find out how the NTF would have been fixed into this financial reform or act, which scrapped the multi-currency system. How would the TM fit in?
Another question?
Fanny Mofmo, I want at the end of the press statement, Mr. President, that there is going to be mass action. People will start demonstrating. But isn't it also a violation of the TNF, which says at first you need to negotiate, exhaust the platform first before you end?
Another question? Maybe you can answer those two questions.
Thank you for those two questions. The first issue, how does the TNF fit in? It is a matter of constitutionalism. The first thing is that the Constitution itself, the Constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe, clearly spells out under Section 13.2 that the government must involve the people in the formulation and implementation of development plans and programs that affect them. The question is, does this policy affect workers? Does this policy affect citizens of the country? The simple answer is it will affect us seriously. We saw it affecting us in 2007, the bearers checks, the Zim dollar hyperinflationary era. We saw also currently the RTGS and the bond notes from 2016 affecting workers and affecting ordinary citizens. So from a constitutional perspective, the government is obliged to consult stakeholders, to consult citizens, and we are part of those citizens who must be consulted. But it's also a matter of the rule of law. The government and the president ascended to an act of parliament recently, and on the 5th of June, it was actually launched spectacularly at the Rainbow Towers. So it is a matter of rule of law that the government must follow through the laws that it enacted voluntarily, the laws such as TNF Act. So the TNF Act provides under Section 3 that part of its functions is to consult and negotiate on socio-economic issues and submit recommendations to cabinet. So for as long as the TNF had not set to discuss this issue, how did the government made and announced that policy without following due process of the law by following the dictates of the TNF Act? So they breached their own act, which the president also ascended and which the parliament passed. Again, under Section 3C, it says the function of the TNF must be to foster cooperation of the tripartite constituents and consult other key stakeholders and contribute to the formulation and implementation of socio-economic policies. Again, they've breached that principle, that provision, that legal provision that is clearly enunciated in the TNF Act. And finally, 3E says the function of the TNF is to generating and promoting a shared national socio-economic vision. A government that is in a crisis like the Zimbabwean government must know and must realize quickly that the only way to come out of the challenges that the country is going through is to come up with a shared national, socio, political, and economic vision that carries everyone, an inclusive developmental policy that is everyone. So this is how the TNF fit. We put ourselves as a country that before we announce important policies, parties and citizens must be engaged. And this is not just a legal issue. All developing countries, all countries that are doing well, one thing that is quite particular about those countries is they consult, they engage in public engagement, effective public engagement. And the majority of countries that are doing so badly, one particularity of those countries is that they are dictatorial, they don't engage in public engagement. So this is how the TNF fit. We think this is an arrogant approach to it because we had already agreed that this matter was coming before the TNF from Monday when we set the agenda and last week when we did informal consultations. Then to the issue about whether this violates the TNF Act. There's nothing in the TNF Act which says the workers or citizens cannot enjoy their constitutional rights to demonstrate, to picket, to petition. There was a misconception before the act was signed and come into effect that this act would ban demonstrations before parties and those discussions. There's nothing in that act. There's nothing complete act. But fundamentally, there's no act of parliament in this country that can violate the constitution. So the freedom to demonstrate, to petition, and to carry out mass action, general strike, and other collective action by labor is a constitutional guaranteed right. Section 65 of the Constitution is very clear. Section 59 of the Constitution is also very clear. So there's nothing that will stop workers from exercising their constitutional rights, not even threats from the state, because we think those threats are unlawful. And we also think the people will prevail against such unlawful threats. So there is nothing that stops us, both in terms of the TNF Act and in terms of the Constitution. And this is why we are freely saying that if the government does not reverse this policy, we will exercise our constitutional rights, and we will do it peacefully. And we have been doing those demonstrations for some time now.
Any more questions? She said faces only. Thank you very much for attending the press conference.